Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile. This is the iKKO OH2, and these are my Honest Audiophile Impressions. I want to thank HifiGo for providing the OH2 for review. Do greatly appreciate it. HifiGo, you rock. Alright, so the iKKO OH2, this is an $80 earphone. It has 32 ohms of impedance, 100 decibels of sensitivity, a frequency response of 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. The materials of the shells are made of metallic and high transparent polycarbonate. And then the driver has a deposited carbon nano diaphragm for a perfect sound of full range. Alright, so the box, you get some branding, a little bit of a sleeve, you get some more branding. On the back side, you do have some information with a intended frequency response. Take the top off the box, your IEMs will be there, and then this that says iKKO on it is actually a shirt pin. So there you go, there's your pin on the back side of it, and then you would just boop, there you go. Alright. On the bottom, after you take the lid out, you get a bag with some replacement nozzle filters, a little tool to help you do that, your cable, and then tips. Now we need to talk about the tips. So you get foams, the ones here on the bottom, and the foams are soft, little donut shapes, and very shallow. I could not get a good fit with the foam tip. When they were in my ears, they didn't really secure the OH2 very well, plus they muddled up the sound. But that wasn't the worst tip. The worst tip was this weird thing. So it's silicone, very, very squishy, and it's long and narrow. And it has a very small nozzle hole. And as you can tell, it's not circular. It's like shaped like a football. And it's long on one side, short on the other. And they did not fit my ears, did not provide any sort of seal. They were not comfortable, and I tried every single size from the smallest to the largest, and none of them fit me properly. And OH2s were just, yeah, no. So I went on a search, and I found that the final Type E tip fit best. We'll talk about that in a moment. Alright, so you get a carrying case, which is very, very strange. You undo this little strap, and then you have a pocket, and the OH2s and cable fit inside there. There's your OH2. Got a little bit of branding on it. You've got that transparent polycarbonate and then the metallic shell. Very smooth on the backside. Smallish. They're not very thick. They're not very heavy. Connect with MMCX connectors, and take a tip off here. Has a decent sized nozzle length and a fairly aggressive angle. And then if you look at the nozzle, it's not circular. It's got that weird football shape, which fits those odd tips. But I found that the final Type E tip actually fit just as well, stayed in place, and they supported the OH2 in my ears. Unlike the stock tips, I was able to get them to insert a little farther, and they just fit me a little bit better. Now, they're not the most secure fit, they're not the most comfortable, but I at least don't feel like they're going to drop out of my ears just when I turn my head. Also, they do offer a little bit of isolation, something I did not get with the stock tips. Isolation is not very good though. I can carry on conversations with music playing with these on. Now, I don't listen at super loud levels, but these do not block anything out. If I'm walking outside and I have music playing at my normal listening level, which is about 65 to 70 dB, I can hear cars go by, and I can hear people talking as they pass me by, things like that. They're not very good at isolating outside noises. Comfort-wise, I can wear them for about an hour, and then they just become a nuisance and frustration because they're wobbling around. They're just not a very good fit for me. Your experience may be different. Overall, they're just okay in that regard. I use them with a lot of different dongles, and I found that they played very well with them. I used them with the Odyssey HD, the Spectra X from NextDrive, the X Duo Link 21, the ADV Access Port Lite, the Razer DAC amp, and also the Periodic Audio Rhodium. Played well on all of them, had no problems powering them, and they all sounded very good on it. Desktop, I used it on there and it wasn't picky at all. IFI, MyTech, Head Amp, Aueze, Deckard, it didn't matter what I used. It worked with them all and was content. Speaking of how do they sound, the iKKO OH2. You want a definition for the sound of the iKKO OH2? Stick around to the end and I'll give you the definition of them. The iKKO OH2 just, it lacks extension in the bass and also lacks extension in the treble. It has a very minimal and just slight presence of sub bass. It's very, very rare that it makes an appearance. And when it does, it's extremely subtle. Mid bass is more prominent. You get a little bit of impact, but it really doesn't have a whole lot of body. Doesn't have a lot of authority. It's just kind of there. And then it's not really well defined. It just has an okay amount of details and resolution. It's just not a very good sounding bass. Goes into one note mode way too often. And in my opinion, it's just kind of a lackluster bass that does its job, but doesn't really impress in any way. Mids, the upper bass does bleed slightly into the mids a little bit, which is nice because it does add a little bit of warmth to it. And unfortunately, the mids are slightly recessed, especially in the main mids down to the lower mids. They're just slightly recessed and not as forward as the upper mids are. They lack body. They don't have a lot of note weight, just like the bass. They're very light, and they just don't have any real authority to them. Tone is okay. Detail retrieval is all right. But the OH2s just don't really impress in the bass. They just kind of sound hollow and thin. The upper mids are elevated and are a little bit more fleshed out. You do get a little bit more body to them, but they also have a lot of moments of being too much, and so they go into shouty mode and they have sibilance issues. The treble, the lower treble, is more prominent than anything in the treble region, and it is very hot. It has a very hot tendency to it, and it's very aggressive, and it is fatiguing, and also it lacks body, and it just is very thin and lean sounding. The upper treble is also extended and elevated a little too much, and it can kind of get into issues with being harsh and just hollow and shallow and shimmery and just glary sounding, and it just has a weirdness to it, especially when it's portraying like cymbals. So like a cymbal will start out very aggressive and then it kind of recesses and then it comes back and gets aggressive again. And it's like it's a U-shaped cymbal. It's very strange, but it does it really fast, but at the same time you can hear it as it kind of goes around. Overall, I find that the frequency response of the OH2 just is very lackluster, and it just lacks cohesion and balance, and it's very thin and has a very little note weight. The soundstage of the OH2 is actually halfway good. The width of it is nice. It's fairly accurate to portray the size of a venue. Depth and layering is okay. It does get confused and muddled on busier tracks. Imaging is pretty good. and you can follow things around the stage, and it's kind of more in this area or in this area. It's not real pinpoint precise. Tone of the OH2 it's okay. I wouldn't call it natural, but it's not annoying or just off-putting. It's okay. It's just not a natural sounding IEM. Timbre is adequate for the price point. Detail retrieval, it's alright. It's not the best, but it's not the worst at the price point. Resolution is lackluster, in my opinion. There's too many moments, especially in the upper mids and in the treble regions, where things just sound hollow, sound shimmery, glary, glassy, and it just lacks refinement. And then in the bass also, you have a lot of moments of one note bass. So overall, I find that the iKKO OH2 lacks control, lacks refinement, and just overall lacks cohesion and balance, and is not a natural sounding earphone. How does it compare to some of its competition? TINHIFI T3. The TINHIFI T3 has way better bass, has better presence in the sub bass, and has more body and just overall authority throughout the presentation. Has more sparkle in energy and is more controlled in the treble, and the mids have an evenness to them and a natural tonality. Detail retrieval and resolution is slightly better on the T3 Plus, and also soundstage has a little bit better depth and layering. The Etymotic ER2 XR, the XRs have way better tone and timbre, have a better imaging, depth, and layering in the soundstage, have more bass impact, have better mids, and overall it just has better body and authority in vocals and instruments. And then the Dunu Titan S. The Dunu Titan S is superior in all ways to the iKKO OH2. The Dunu Titan S has better tone and timbre, has better detail retrieval and resolution, has a better soundstage, more accurate imaging and preciseness, and does better with depth and layering, and has more accurate sub bass and in the bass overall, and the vocals are just more pleasing, natural, and accurate. The definition of the iKKO OH2 is the definition for meh. If you're looking for the meh IEM, here you go, the iKKO OH2. It does nothing wrong and it does nothing right. It's just meh. It's just one of those IEMs that really can't get out of its own way. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of next video, somewhere on the screen, subscription links and notification bells. If you haven't already, please check those off. And then don't forget to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the video, and check out the links down below for all kinds of information for how you can contact the channel, follow the channel, support the channel. And there's all kinds of information regarding music that was used in the review, and gear recommendations and tier lists and all kinds of other things. So check out the links down below. And then don't forget to enjoy the music, and that honesty is the best policy.